Audio Jungle.
Man shot dead at gutters, one of three gun attacks in St. Elizabeth on Saturday. A man was shot dead near a gas station at Gutters, close to the Manchester and St. Elizabeth border on Saturday. His identity is not yet been ascertained. Preliminary reports are that about 4:45 p.m., the man was seated in a white Toyota Axio parked near the gas station when a vehicle pulled up alongside it and gunmen alighted, opening fire on the man in the driver's seat. Eyewitnesses say the gunman's firearm fell from him during the attack before he retrieved it and continued the rampage. It was the third reported shooting in St. Elizabeth on Saturday. Early in the day, a man was shot dead at Pepper District while another was shot and injured in Thornton District. Ex-cop suspected in murder of JDF soldier arrested. A suspect in the murder of a Jamaica Defence Force soldier in Denhamton, Kingston last month has been arrested. Reporters understand that the suspect, said to be an ex-policeman, was held in a targeted operation carried out by the Area 4 Fugitive Apprehensive Team in collaboration with the Denhamton Mobile Patrol Team in West Kingston community on Saturday afternoon. He was wanted in connection with the fatal shooting of 20-year-old Private E.J. Drumville on August 23rd. Drumville was part of a team that was on foot patrol in the vicinity of Charles Street and Chestnut Lane when he was killed. The name of the suspect is being withheld pending further investigation. Motorcyclist killed in Manchester crash bike missing. Police are investigating the death of a motorcyclist following a reported crash on the Silent Hill Main Road in Manchester on Friday night. The victim has been identified as 34-year-old Rocky Johnson, otherwise called Rox, a pump attendant and resident of New Forest, Manchester. Reports are that around 7:45 p.m., Hans was riding a motorcycle on the main road when he lost control and crashed. He was pronounced dead at hospital. Police have been unable to locate the motorcycle involved in the crash. A police source reiterated the importance of road safety among motorcyclists. Of all the bike deaths that we have, none of them were wearing helmets. Recently, the Kiwanis Club donated helmets to motorcyclists, yet still motorcyclists are not wearing their helmets, the source stated. Body of man washed away in Wogwater River, found after 16 days. 16 days after 25-year-old Omar Skyers was washed away by the Wogwater River at Caston in St. Mary, his body was found at a river in Broadgate in the parish. The discovery was reportedly made by a resident who saw a body floating in an area at Broadgate known as Stoughton Pen on Saturday. Skyers and a female friend, 19-year-old Kristen Steele, reportedly went swimming on September 12 following a visit to Caston when they were swept away by rushing waters caused by heavy rains. Steele bodies was discovered by a search team on the morning of September 14 in the Flint River area of Caston. Member of Parliament for South East St. Mary, Dr. Norman Dunn told reporters that the authorities are now removing Skyers' body from the river. It is a sad period for the family of the deceased, however, they have now gotten closure, stated Dunn. It has been more than 2 weeks since Skyers was swept away and there was uncertainty as to what might have happened. But today, sad to say, his body was spotted. I have to commend the entire search team for their effort, even though the outcome was not what we wanted, he stated. Mass killer Rushane Barnett requests new attorney, refuses to abandon appeal. Rushane Barnett, the man convicted and sentenced to life for hackling his cousin Kimisha Wright and her 4 children to death in 2022, has refused to abandon his appeal despite his lawyer advising against it. Barnett's court-assigned attorney, Kemma Robinson, informed him that he was unable to find any legal basis to challenge the ruling of the Supreme Court Judge, Justice Leighton Pusey, who had sentenced Barnett to 5 life sentences. Barnett is eligible for parole after serving 61 years and 8 months. Barnett is appealing his sentences on the basis that they were excessive. The matter was heard in part on Monday, on which time Robinson told the court to get written instructions from his client. On Friday morning, when the matter was called up by the Court of Appeal, Robinson informed the court that Barnett did not agree with his position and wishes to retain new counsel in the matter. The victim's Wright and her 4 children were discovered inside their Cockapiece home with chop wounds and their throats slashed on June 21. According to Barrett, his cousin who operated a shop on the premises where she lived had disrespected him in the days before the murders. He claimed that a customer who came to the premises and he served the customer, but his cousin was upset and told him he was not to serve her customers and grabbed the cash from his hand and splashed water into his face. He said he was offended from the instance. A subsequent interaction with his cousin, he said, led to the stabbings. Agriculture Minister says approximately 150 farmers were impacted by recent heavy rains across the island. Agriculture Minister Fred Green says approximately 150 farmers were impacted by the recent heavy rains across the island. Rains lashed most parishes from Saturday to Wednesday due to an era of disturbed weather associated with a broad trough across the Western Caribbean. Speaking to reporters, Mr. Green said the farmers in South Manchester and Southeast St. Elizabeth were most impacted. He said scallions, tomatoes and other vegetables were destroyed. Mr. Green added that the government has begun assessment and will be assisting the farmers soon.
The team from RADA has been out in the field and we've been assessing the impact of the recent rains. Thus far, we've noted about 150 farmers that have been impacted, largely from South Manchester and places like New Forest, Duff House, Prospect, Downs, and also parts of Southeast St. Elizabeth, Comerpen and the surrounding environs. Most of the damage has been done to scallion, and we have noted some tomato, and we have noted some other leafy vegetables that have been impacted. We will continue to assess, and of course, we'll provide some support to the farmers to help them recover as quickly as possible.
Tonia's family happy with Beachy Stout's life sentence. The family of Tonia McDonald is relieved that her 69-year-old husband, who orchestrated her brutal death, will spend the rest of his life in prison. He will not be coming out back. That alone is closure for us. He will be locked away for life, Tonia's sister, Nicole Hamilton Linton, commented on Thursday after Everton McDonald was handed a pre-parole sentence of almost 30 years. The Portland businessman, who will be observing his 70th birthday on October 29, was sentenced to life in prison for his wife's murder and ordered to serve 28 years and 11 months in prison before being eligible for parole. He was also sentenced to 4 years and 36 months for conspiracy, but the sentences are drawn concurrently. Oscar Barnes, the 33-year-old St. Mary Tyler and fisherman who was subcontracted for the murder of Tonia, was similarly sentenced to life in prison and slapped with 28 years, 11 months pre-parole sentence. He was also sentenced to 6 years and 6 months for a conspiracy. McDonald, who had appeared nonchalant during the near 6-month trial, looked peeved while his co-convicts sported a smirk as they stood before Judge Chester Stamp in the Home Circuit Court for sentencing. Reacting to the sentences, Hamilton Linton, who was very emotional as she learned of her husband, Abel Linton, was pleased. It brings a bit of closure to everything, but unfortunately my sister is still deceased. She will never be able to be with us again, she said with a heavy sigh. But I am glad that the justice system was able to get these persons off the street and make it a little bit safer for law-abiding citizens. We just want to be able to mourn now and put this all behind us, she added. Hamilton Linton said she agreed with the judge's description of the case being one of the worst of the worst. Having to live through all of it, reading it in the media, just imagining what my sister went through in her final moments haunts me to this day, she said, recalling that she recently broke down upon hearing one of Tonia's favorite songs. This is not something that you heal from. It is something that stays with you for a long time, maybe for all my years, and I will always remember my baby sister, because when I look in the mirror, I see her, because persons used to make mistakes with the both of us as twins. She will never ever leave us, she added. The men were found guilty on both charges in March by the jury. The charred remains of Tonia McDonald's second wife were found next to her burnt Toyota Axio motor car in Sherwood Forest in the Portland on July 20, 2020. It had 9 stab wounds and the throat was slashed. A contract killer, Denverlin Minto, who is serving 19 years in prison for his role in her murder, had testified that McDonald hired him to kill his wife for $3 million, but that he passed on the work to Barnes. Minto testified that he and Barnes made the 4 unsuccessful trips to Tonia's house to kill her before he lured her to the area where she was murdered, under the pretense that he had secured 2 guns that she was seeking to purchase. The court ruled that Tonya wanted to purchase a gun to avenge her father's death and that her husband introduced her to Minto for his assistance. Barnes and McDonald both denied killing the woman or being part of the murder conspiracy. Attorney at law Christopher Townsend, Courtney Rowe, John Jacobs, Earl Hamilton, and his son, Don Paul, represented Beatrice Stout. Attorney at law Ernest Davis and Vincent Wesley represented Barnes. Remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.